Disclaimer. Do not send any type of harassment or negativity towards the creators that I review. This includes hateful comments, mass paying the creators, dislike spamming, and toxic videos about them. This video is for entertainment purposes, and even then, what I say could be wrong, so please take my videos with a grain of salt. Enjoy! So this is a Powerscalers attempt to try and defeat the Indom 2.0. By the way, this is not a hate video towards Powerscalers. But anyways, I'm going to be using a realism perspective, so don't try and flame me in the comments. Anyways, enjoy.
I believe you're all...
If you're a Powerscaler, then just be civil, alright? Because I'm choosing to analyze this with realism.
familiar with Goji Center's hybrids, the Indominus Rex 2.0 and the Indoraptor 2.0. Goji Center and his team made multiple variations to the animals' genomes. But is this an upgrade? Can they keep up with the originals?
In the realistic universe, yes. I don't know why you brought that question up, but okay. Hold on, let's see. This video is attempting to minimize the misinformation spread. Nor is this a critique to the main dinosaurs itself. This is purely for information. Alright, fair enough.
In order to establish this, we have to go in depth and check the genetic makeup of both of these hybrids, and then go over like their attributes like armor, how hard they can hit, their bite forces, etc.
Now, power with realism, they use stuff like auxiliary weaponry and all that. With power scaling, they just use attack potency, battle IQ, and a bunch of other stuff. Anyways, continue.
Basically, Goji Center's trademark by now is using like quirky and different animals that seem to make quite a change in their genetic composition. I will be addressing what works, what doesn't work, and such. I will try and be as fair as possible for both sides and go over their scaling, their attributes, their hacks, and all that, but as much as dress quirk can have hacks, if you get what I mean. For simplicity, we will be going over the Indominus Rexes first, and only after we are done, we will be going over the Indoraptors. So let's get into it. Goji Center fans and Goji Center himself seem to really value size in combat, so I think it's appropriate to start with the latter, size. The Indominus Rex 2.0 is portrayed as being just as long as the Indominus Rex, but stubbier and shorter in order to favor a quadrupedal build.
And that is why, and with all those genetic contributors, the Indom 2.0 can pounce quite easily.
So does...
because of the air sacs, making pouncing viable, as well as those fast twitch muscles.
Does this mean that the Indom 2.0 is just as long as the Indominus Rex we know? No, really. It just means that the Indominus Rex 2.0 is as long as how big Goji Center believes the Indominus Rex is. And for some weird reason, Goji Center believes the Indominus Rex is 12.2 meters.
13.1 meters. Yeah, 13.1 meters is quite an underestimate. It's probably because the Indominus they foregone the Giganotosaurus DNA.
I believe this is because of...
But then again, size is determined by mass and not length. So with those jacked arms, the Indom 2.0 could probably be about the same size as the Indominus despite being shorter in length.
The currently 40 feet long statement, although this comes from the 20th of November of 2014 for an animal accelerated growth, when we have direct statements from the ILM and other sources of the movie animal, so not the adult, to already be 55 feet long and almost 22 feet tall.
It's also a sub-adult.
So 6.7 meters tall and 16.9 meters long. So in terms of size, the actual Indominus Rex kind of dwarfs Goji Center's hybrid. And
then again, the Indominus 1.0 cannot pounce, while the Indominus 2.0 can pounce. So that negates the size difference. Not to mention that the Indominus doesn't seem to have resistance to true venom.
And in terms of...
There's the Deinosuchus, I mean, there's also the Pit Viper and all that.
Of mass, we don't really have anything for the Indom 2.0, because he never gave any specifications. But for the Indominus Rex itself, she's like the most consistent mass for her. It seems to be in a 10 tons range. Although her mass inverse is unknown as it was never measured. So we're just
16.9 meters. Okay, you're using the highest estimates for the Indominus Rex. Another estimate is around like 15 meters or so.
Gonna stick with the most consistent statements, that being 10.5 tons. We will follow the same scheme that Goji Center follows throughout this video. So we will start with forelimbs and claws. The Indominus Rex 2.0, as we know, uses ape DNA for its forelimbs in order to increase its musculature and fix its positioning, which also allows for tool usage, which I will be going over later in the video. But one of the most relevant changes will be the claws, because as we know, the Indominus Rex's claws are thin, long, and like made kind of for piercing. But Goji Center decides to replace them with Saurophagonax claws, although
now it's called Allosaurus anax, but back then Saurophagonax still existed, so...
Saurophagonax is not a valid genus as of 2025.
Which is correct. It's now Allosaurus anax. Saurophagonax possibly belongs to a sauropod now.
It's worth noting that these claws are thicker and more robust, favoring like obviously their durability, but I don't really see how this is gonna help in this confrontation.
It does kind of help, because, you know, the Indominus 2.0's hook Saurophagonax hands can, as well as the fast twitch muscles. You're kind of forgetting the fast twitch muscles that allow the Indominus 2.0 to pierce even the thickest of hides.
Thick claws also sacrifice piercing damage, which is kind of what the Indominus Rex 2.0 should rely on. Because once you can pierce into something, generally you can leverage it around and thrash it around or get a grip on it.
I don't see a way that the Indominus 1.0 can counter the Indominus 2.0. Not to my knowledge.
Well, this is not really gonna be great for the Indom 2.0. Unlike the Indominus Rex's thinner, longer claws, which are gonna favor this, especially due to her larger size and depth.
I mean, the Therizinosaur claws are okay, but they aren't really used for combat.
Definitely superior range.
Keep in mind that the Indominus Rex was not made to be a combat animal. It's just made to be a display animal.
The Indominus Rex having like thinner claws really doesn't incapacitate her in any way, because Goji Center uses realism for his videos and sticks to certain statistics. The Jurassic World franchise does not fall under this. She can pierce through the gyrosphere, which is a material stated to be stronger than any steel, which is like 13k megapascals. So that's already something on a league of its own. Therefore, like, she surely can do damage. She pierces Rexy with them, she thrashes him around, and such.
I'm not going to try and flame this guy and say, oh my god, power scaling is inherently wrong. Well, this is a power scaling thing. This is a power scaling feat, so there's really not much else to say other than the fact that I'll politely reject this and not flame this guy and let the power scalers just do their own thing.
The fact that they're just thin doesn't discredit them. With that out of the way, we're just gonna go over their forelimbs, their arms. Who has stronger arms? Goji Centers appeals to his realism using apes, due to like their well-developed arms and fast-twitching muscles, which will favor stronger blows. But he is confined to realism. He also brings up the fact that apes can lift like as much as their body weight, so we can just kind of use that as a baseline for the Indominus Rex 2.0. But how should our Indominus Rex compare? She has feats that are so incredibly above this, it makes it irrelevant. She's stronger than Rexy, who can grab her, lift her off the ground, and throw her, which gets in the 18 metric tons range using the physics that he so much loves.
Okay. Yeah, this is just power scaling stuff at this point. Tons of them. Tons of them. Ugh.
And in Camp Cretaceous, we see her pull down a Brachiosaurus, overpower it.
And the Indominus 2.0 could probably do that as well, due to its fast twitch muscles. And the Indom 2.0 can literally just try. Could the Indom 2.0 have enough force to push the Brachiosaur? By the way, in realism standards, this is just movie magic.
Camp Cretaceous, we see her pull down a Brachiosaurus, overpower it.
Yeah, this is in terms of realism, this is just movie magic.
And move the fucking steel tower. The steel tower.
Moving the steel tower. I mean, the Indominus 2.0 can also just punch it. I mean, the Indominus 2.0 has 8 arms. It should be able to punch the steel tower as well. If you're talking about feats so much.
Tower is gigantic. Using low balls, it already gets in the 85 tons range. Although this is an old, really low-balled calc. So it's clear that the Indominus Rex already has the edge, even in this, thanks to Jurassic World not directly appealing to realism. So, let's move on to our next category for now. The Indominus Rex 2.0's design also clearly shows crocodilian influence, which is exactly what's going on. We see osteoderms all over the thing, on top of it, on the tail, and the underbelly. This is because of the dwarf crocodile DNA, which is meant to cover all of it in terms of armor. But is this gonna actually be important against the Indominus Rex?
It is. The Indominus 2.0 is going to be able to absorb a lot of the bites. Absorb the claws too. Those Deinosuchus and Carcharodontosaur-like teeth, they are not going to favor the Indominus 1.0. Well, especially in terms of bite force, which the Indom 2.0 would be able to resist.
First thing Goshi Center does is attack the Indominus Rex's current armor, quote-unquote, because of the osteodrome placement. Which, yes, they're really splayed out, but her armor is not this. Her armor is her skin, due to how durable it is. Now, she does get pierced by Rexy, of course, which would only upscale her. She does get pierced by Raptors, which, again, would only upscale her. But in terms of sheer durability and endurance, she is outmatched. She goes from least impressive feats, such as taking bullets, but then she goes from taking out rocket launchers. She goes from enduring her own bite, which I'll address later. She goes from taking Rexy bites. She slams into the AoE and isn't even stunned by her own kinetic energy and all that. So, does she need the crocodilian armor? No, she doesn't. Because she's already impressive enough to withstand all of those.
It's just because of her thick hide. That's pretty much it. If you're talking about the Indominus' impressive durability feats, then the Indominus, just look for the thick hide. The Indominus, in realism standards though, the thick hide is not enough.
And if we really want to use the Goji Center logic, her size, out of virtue of size, she would also favor from this. The Indom 2.0 has better armor, just because the Indominus Rex lacks relevant armor. It doesn't grant the Indom 2.0 better durability or endurance, because the Indominus Rex outclasses it in both, as we kinda know nothing about this hybrid.
We can just assume the Indom 2.0 can also probably do the same feats?
Besides appealing to real life, which limits it. Now on to one of the Indominus Rex 2.0's most interesting attributes, its bite. Why am I calling it interesting? Because Goji Santos tries to charm us by using an unknown animal, or one that you wouldn't expect seeing in such videos. A northern tail shrew.
Northern tail shrew.
What point does he make for this being a valid contributor? Basically, how shrews work is that they have high levels of iron in their teeth, and he's using this to justify higher piercing power, adding that onto the teeth positioning and T-Rex bite force.
And venom as well. Goji Center did say that the shrews biting method, crunching and thrashing, is works well with the T-Rex, which did almost the same thing.
T-Rex bite force is alright. I'm gonna go over that and explain why it doesn't matter.
This scene, our new Indom would shatter this ball like a light bulb.
But why is this so impressive that has me going over for almost 2 minutes? The thing about the gyrosphere is that it's a material more durable than any steel. This material can get up to 13k megapascals, which is ludicrous. If we calculate the speed, it gets up to the 1.3 tons of TNT.
Honestly, I should probably do like... At this point, I don't know when I will begin making my video of Rexy versus Sue, but all I know is that it will have both realism and power scaling perspectives. So in realism, I'm going to be using a bunch of auxiliary weaponry and all that. Meanwhile, in the power scaling, I'm going to try and calculate the battle IQ feats, as well as durability feats and all that. Attack potency as well.
If you want to scale off of the time taken, up to 1 ton of TNT. That's enough energy to destroy a building. And so, no, as Goji Center says, the Indom 2.0 will not pop it like a light bulb. It would break its teeth attempting to. And if you want to bring out, in Fallen Kingdom, a gun pierced it. The material ruins itself over time, obviously. It's a tropical island with an active volcano on it and animals going around it. Do you want it to be as sharp as usual? Also, if you want to add on to the Indominus Rex's physical strength, she just goes on and smash it onto the floor and break a massive chunk out of it. But this is not all of it, because Rexy upscales off of this bite, and no, her bite force is not 34.5k newtons, she has feats contradicting that. And the Indominus Rex survives and endures 8 bites from Rexy, who's already above this bar that we have set.
But then again, the T-Rex can't really kill an Monosaurus in one hit. One bite. Not even to the windpipe. Shown in Prehistoric Planet. Let's roll the clip. As you can see here. Do you see why the T-Rex has had to... They had to evolve to have ridiculously powerful bites. Because one bite is not enough, you need multiple.
Enough energy to destroy a building. So take that as you will. The Indom 2.0 does not compare even in bite force. Shrew is not charming. Having more durable and teeth that are always sharp is not gonna do anything, because it doesn't increase their power. But that's not everything the Shrew brings to the table. There's 2 other facts that we to consider. Let's start with what I just mentioned. Shrews are also venomous. So, is this gonna affect our Indominus Rex? Not really. Even in Goji Center's video, he says this: crocodilians are extremely resistant to venoms and can stop blood flow and slowly kill the venom itself. The Indominus Rex has Deinosuchus DNA. So, using venom is already out of the equation. And for the rest of the bite, he uses T-Rex DNA himself, which, appealing to his realism, should be in the 6 to 9 tons range depending on the specimen. How does this compare to Indominus Rex? Using the same formula and the same calculation, we can get the Indominus Rex at extremely high numbers due to this being, again, a fictional animal.
Okay. At this point, there's really not much argument I could think of against power scaling, because I'm not trying to flame them. I'm not trying to blindly hate them at this point. It's not like Caillou getting grounded, where these people are showing their blind hatred towards those quote-unquote baby show characters. Jesus. Those terms are completely insane, man. Alrighty then, let's continue.
Up to 243,900 tons. That's insane and shouldn't be compared to anything that exists in real life. Let's remember that this is fiction. It's on a whole other level, which should have been evident by just watching the movie itself.
Then again, fiction stuff, Hollywood stuff is just extremely inconsistent. That is why Goji Center and a lot of people who have a realism perspective, when it comes to analyzing, they just brush them off as this movie magic.
But let's get into our extra category. Is tool usage going to be relevant? As we already established, ape DNA and more opposable tons are going to help the Indom 2.0 in manipulating objects like metal poles. So, is it going to do anything? Like poke at the Indominus Rex and maybe stab to her or open mouth?
Yes. This is because if the Indominus 2.0, has that sharpened metal pole, it can just literally destroy the Indominus. The Indominus 2.0 also has an advantage in a lot of range stuff. For example, it can literally uproot a random tree branch and then just smash the Indom 1.0 with it. Even if the Indom 1.0 is bigger than the Indom 2.0, the uprooted tree branch is going to be able to stun the Indominus 1.0, and then the Indominus 2.0 can attack.
Well, the thing is, if the Indom 2.0 tries to use tools, the Indom strike is gonna tank it and kind of not gonna do anything. She can resist like bullets that are meant to kill T-Rexes and Rexy scales to the Indominus strike's durability and AP.
But then again, the Indominus 1.0 and Indominus 2.0, the Indominus bullet resistance feat is only because the bullets are less sharp. When it comes to the sharpened metal ball, the Indominus 1.0 can't really resist a sharp thing that just has its force concentrated on one tip. The bullets don't have this feat. Well, most of them, at least. It probably might be able to have less resistance from a sniper rifle. They were using assault rifles, from what I remember. Which, their bullets aren't as potent as sniper bullets.
So, you have to keep that into consideration. And if you want to say the Indom 2.0 is capable of outsmarting her, there's not much that suggests that, because she has, like, ape DNA in the Indom 2.0. But raptors are already stated smarter than anything besides humans, and Indom just manipulated the raptors. So, I believe that it's not that big of a gap. Like, Indom 2.0 can be smarter, or Indom can be smarter. Indom itself is extremely impressive because, she learned a whole ass language. She learned how to communicate with the raptors, and she has never seen them before. It doesn't matter, it's not in her genetic language. She learned a new language in 1 second of listening to something. She outsmarted humans, she made traps. So we cannot just say, oh well, Indom 2.0 is gonna outsmart her into oblivion. No, because that's just not gonna happen. So, what is our verdict for this fight? The Indom 2.0 has some interesting adaptations, like for endurance, durability, and tool usage.
Which is correct. The Indom 2.0 is very, very powerful. I still don't see how the Indom 1.0, in a realism perspective, can counter the Indom 2.0.
But basically, it's gonna go down like this. The Indominus strike is gonna ram through her and kill her immediately. One bite is destroying the Indom 2.0's armor effortlessly. Now that they've established the superiority of our Indominus Rex over Goji Center's creation, we can go over onto a fight that seems to be more balanced. The two Indoraptors.
Okay. Man. I'm kind of glad we're done with this segment of the Indom 2.0 getting destroyed by the Indom 1.0, apparently, in terms of power scaling feats and all that. We're back.
I know that Goji Center's Indoraptor has a species name, but I'm gonna call it Indoraptor 2.0 for simplicity. In terms of size, I don't think Goji Center's made any modifications, actually. They are literally the same size.
Okay, fair enough. So, Powerscaler also kind of agrees that the Indoraptor 2.0...
The only difference here is that the Indoraptor 2.0 has pneumatized bones, which are basically just the hollow bones a bird have, but reinforced. So our Indoraptor could be slightly heavier, not by much. So they're basically equalized in this report. So just for the Goji Center goons, this is, in terms of size, a good fight. But now let's get into the stuff that actually matters. Just like the Indom 2.0, the Indoraptor 2.0 hosts a variety of different interesting animals.
For example, the Montosaurus tail.
This dinosaur
with Hoplophoneus, short-tailed shrew, vampire bat combo for the head, for the jaws and teeth. The brain is a combo of bonobo and Molossian hound. The Utah Raptor is the base. Meanwhile, the arms are also have a combination of Hoplophoneus, bonobo, whatchamacallit again? The Utah Raptor once again, and I don't know the other one. And then there's And then there is also the Arapaima and the water anal.
Isn't directly meant for dinosaur conflict, and it's meant to hunt down humans and be a war machine, which we will see later on with different adaptations. Let's start off with its corporal build. Basically, the main thing about this animal is bulk and endurance. Goji Center replaced the Velociraptor DNA with his fan-made Utahraptor, which is supposed to be from the Jurassic verse. But also, he replaces the Velociraptor DNA with a Triceratops DNA because of the bulk and the chunk.
Oh, I also forgot the Atrociraptor. Okay.
What does this give the Indoraptor 2.0? It's generally just slight bulk increase and just meant to give him social skills and intelligence and all those things.
Which benefits the Indoraptor 2.0. The Indoraptor 2.0 can... Because of its monstrous tail, the Indoraptor 2.0 is... Really, though, the Indoraptor and the Indoraptor 2.0 aren't really meant to combat seriously. The Indoraptor 2.0 is just meant to dispatch humans. The Indoraptor 1.0 is just a display animal. You gotta know their purposes.
The main thing about its corporal build is the Addersaur DNA, which, apart from adding onto its bulk, is also just gonna help his stamina due to the unique build of Addersaur's tail, especially at Monosaurus. So he's meant to be a long-distance runner, a fighter over time to track down enemies and kill them.
As well as it can also perform the same thing in... Not really the same thing, but can also efficiently dispatch prey in water because of Arapaima and the anal lizard.
So he has the bulk advantage on our leaner Indoraptor. The Indoraptor stands out 3.1 meters tall and about 7.1 meters long, depending on stance. So we're just gonna assume those dimensions for the Indoraptor 2.0 too. But since that's not really gonna matter, let's get into the most important things. Bite force. Goji Center decides to once again use shrews for the bite and robust iron teeth. I've already explained why this doesn't matter much. Having harder teeth that constantly keep them, are always sharp is sure gonna be helpful, but it's not gonna increase the bite force. Since, the Indoraptor is also constantly replacing his teeth, also keeping them sharp. So besides the fact that he doesn't need to replace teeth, this doesn't really do anything. Besides, sure, he's not gonna get his teeth knocked out during a fight, but it's not as important as Goji Center makes it out to be. These iron teeth are gonna pierce through anything. Pop the gyrosphere. No, it doesn't matter that much.
I mean, this Indoraptor 2.0, its bite force is not going to compare to Indominus 2.0. There's no T-Rex involved. So I don't know what sort of stuff are you talking about. Then again, the Indoraptor 2.0 also has those Hoplophoneus fangs and the, the vampire bat. Also, the Indoraptor 2.0 has iron claws thanks to the vampire bat.
So, with that out of the way, for the blueprint of the bite force, Goji Center uses his fictional Utahraptor and the IRL Utahraptor, but also he decides to add the vampire bites canines to increase the overall PSI. And this is an interesting choice, which is not a bad choice when it comes to real life. He, with these methods, comes up with a bite force of 2.1 tons, which is very impressive for an animal its size if this was real life. How does our Indoraptor compare to this? I'm just gonna use one scene, which is kind of the weakest performance, which is breaking the guy's arm. Basically, we know the Indoraptor shattered the radius and ulna, and I made a calculation for this. We know the actors like Cam Whittle and all that info, and so we can determine that the Indoraptor can output 51.2 kJ.
The problem is, Indoraptor 2.0 can also most likely be able to do the same thing. Just dismember an arm. If it were to be put in Ken Wheatley's enclosure, this Indoraptor 2.0 is going to slice it off. Really not much else to say about this.
So, How much would that be in tons? Using the distance that the Indoraptor's jaws can like create between one another, we get a result of 12.4 tons. Again, that's a massive gap.
Sometimes power scalers just try and glaze their favorite animal to give them any means of justification for them to win.
Which is why I retain that, once again, we should not be comparing realism to Jurassic World. And keep in mind, this is using like the Indoraptor's maybe worst feet, because he also just tears through blue like butter, and she has really good feet in terms of like blunt durability. Sure, she gets pierced by a bullet. I don't care. That doesn't matter. It's piercing durability. So, we've established the Indoraptor's clear bite force superiority, but let's go over the Indor 2.0's like quirky and different trait, that being the armor.
Our
Indoraptor 2.0's quirky and different trademark are its scales. Goji Center uses an interesting animal for this, that being Arapaima. This is a large lungfish known for its weird scales,
as well as the ability to breathe air.
Basically, these scales are supposed to be extremely resistant, and Goji Center justifies this using the hardness scale and compares it to bulletproof vests having only 4 to 5, while the Arapaima scales get up to 6.4. The main issue I have with the scale is that this is all volume reliant. Now, certain studies suggest that Arapaima exterior, so the outside of the scale, can resist up to 550 megapascals, while the inside is in the 220 megapascals range, maybe up to 250. Now, what matters in terms of pressure is volume. In my calculation that I'm about to show, I am being extremely generous to the Arapaima and saying that the entire scale is made out of the hardiest part of the scale, which is the exterior. And this would get the Arapaima scale using a generic fish scale, which again increases the area of this thing due to the Arapaima scales not being like a rectangle, gets the feet to 3,190 joules. So that's about street level. So how does the Indoraptor compare? The feet from the Indoraptor is 51,200 joules.
Goodness gracious. At this point, there really isn't... There's nothing to talk about, and there's nothing that I could say to go against the power scaler. It's just a power scaling perspective. That's pretty much it. There's really not much else to say other than, in the power scaling perspective, the Indominus 1.0 and the Indoraptor 1.0 can defeat the Indominus 2.0 and the Indoraptor 2.0 respectively. That's just another cool freaking, that's just another perspective of looking at things.
That's more than 15 times the energy required to absolutely destroy an Arapaima scale. So, with that out of the way, the Indoraptor's Armor 2.0 is not really relevant, but what does our own Indoraptor have to offer in this regard? We see the Indoraptor just casually take bullets from Owen's gun. Goji Center tends to use PSI for some weird reason.
It's unreliable.
But basically, the weapon that Owen uses can get up to 61k PSI depending on the caliber. But being bulletproof also is going to increase its overall piercing durability. Because, Blue, the same animal that can pierce through the Indominus Rex, is not making a dent on the Indoraptor.
It's probably where the Indoraptor... Look. Guys. This is just movie inconsistency. So we can't really take this into account. We can't just automatically assume that the Indoraptor has higher durability than the Indominus Rex because the Indoraptor was not scarred by blue while the Indominus Rex was scarred by blue. It's just not really how it works.
The Indoraptor only gets pierced by the trike due to the terrible positioning, the flank, and, a 1-ton animal falling with all that speed. So, yes, the Indoraptor's armor is also way better. This fight is getting also kinda one-sided so far. But the Indoraptor 2.0 may have one last trick up its sleeve. The last thing the Indoraptor 2.0 can do by now is rely on its venom. As I've already said, Shoes have a quite potent venom, at least relative to body size, and it's fighting a similarly sized opponent. So is this gonna do anything? Of course, the Indoraptor does not have as much Dinosuga's DNA as the Indominus Rex. But the Indoraptor, due to being like a war machine, is also portrayed as being immune to venoms, in addition to the already present Indominus Rex DNA, which slows down the venom. In Jurassic World Evolution 2, he's portrayed as being immune to basically every type of venom, which could also suggest his immunity towards the venom. But let's ignore that. Even while ignoring that, he should have, first of all, strong enough immune response due to the Indominus Rex, but he's also gonna finish the fight way before the venom even gets into his bloodstream, if it will even do anything to him. The Indoraptor's resistance to venom is kinda weird when it comes to the franchise, because we don't have a lot about it besides speculation. But it doesn't matter anyway. So,
look, I'm not going to try. Look, the comment war down in the comments is just a bunch of realism versus power scaling toxic people just going ham with each other. I don't want this in my comment section. Of course, I encourage debate, but debate must be civil and not be just toxic flaming towards each other kind of debate. It's just regular old debate, regular old arguments, not a flame war.
What is our conclusion for the video? Kyoji Center's hybrid do not keep up with the real deals, the originals. They get torn to pieces, and it's not even a really close fight. But maybe there is one last creature that can stand up to them.
The Ultima Imperatrix.
Can stand up to them.
Then again, the Ultima Imperatrix, even in realism, the Ultima Imperatrix could literally just, quote-unquote, one-taps the Indominus Rex and the Indoraptor. The Indoraptor stands 0 chance, while the Indominus, I don't know what sort of tactic would the Indominus Rex be able to do against such a heavily armed and armored animal. There really isn't that much the Indominus Rex 1.0 can do. Anyways, guys, this is a Powerscalers attempt to defeat the Indominus 2.0 and the Indoraptor 2.0. It's just using the original Jurassic World hybrids. Anyway, that's pretty much all from me. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you.